Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt from Divination Counseling Service here today to present the horoscope for Texas. I thought in light of their natural disasters that it might be a really good idea to look at what is going on in astrology. There are a few things I wanted to look at, so I thought I would share my exploration with you. As it turns out, I haven't had to prepare for this one as much as I prepare for some of the others, so please bear with me. I want to let you know that ahead of time. We're going to be looking at not only the chart of December 29th, 1845, when Texas became part of the United States, but we're also going to be looking at a secondary progressed version of that chart, i.e. what's going on today. And we're going to compare not only the progressed chart, but also the transits for the chart that are going on right now as well. So we're going to be looking at 3 different charts. I'm going to combine them. We're going to look at them on dials. So unfortunately, I was unable to use the Janus program today. I'm going to be doing all of it on the Solar Fire in an effort to kind of save time and expedite things. So before I begin, as I always do, I want to share a moment of gratitude with all of you for helping to build my small channel. So thank you so much. I also want to make a comment about, I did do a video on the nodes, and I know that videos like that are more of interest to those that are really studying astrology. But for those of you who are really studying astrology, I will be doing one on 3 of the Liliths, and we'll get to that, the Black Moon predominantly, and what does that mean, and how it hasn't been very researched. So something really interesting. And then I'm looking at possibly down the road doing a series on horary, which is how astrologers can, it's sort of like a card reading. They can answer questions based on the chart at the moment that it was asked, if the questions are asked correctly. It's actually a dying art. When I was really young studying astrology, it seemed like there were more people doing it. But today, not as many people, because I think more people read cards. So I think what's happened is that group of people that would have worked in that capacity might be working with cards now. I mean, that would be one answer. But I would like to look at it because though I'm a card reader, the idea of horary is something that I think is really interesting, and it would make for some really good tutorial videos. So that's something for down the road, but I am looking at that. So for all of you that are subscribers, thank you, thank you, thank you. Please continue to like, share, comment. I love hearing from you. We're a small group. I can have dialogue. It's awesome. So we can take advantage of that while we can. In the interim, thank you for sharing because I really do want my channel to grow. I enjoy doing this so much that I would love to continue if there's an interest. So, with that said, let's look at the chart for December 29th, 1845. I used 38 North, 77 West, which, and I just want to point this out before we go on too, which is in Carolyn Dobson's book. Okay, this I really recommend if you're doing like some kind of mundane work, which is what we're going to be doing today. It really gives you the states, most of the cities. I mean, it's a really great book, okay? So I highly recommend. It's not very expensive, and it really has been a really good addition to my reference books. In her book, she doesn't give me a city. I kind of thought Pennsylvania because I didn't know what time we had moved to Washington. I'm studying history, but I'm not quite good on that stuff. As it turns out, it is somewhere outside of DC. I just want to share that with you. I don't know where, so there will be no city on this, just as there is no city listed in her book, just longitude and latitude, okay? Now, with that said, and the time we're going to be using, 12, you would say to yourself, is it going to be a good chart? It is actually, but it's a weird that it would be a 12 p.m. chart and still be that good. So let's look at it, and maybe you can decide with me. Remember that the people who founded this country did study astrology. I know they don't any longer, and I know the people that are in government right now wouldn't know astrology from their own, they don't know it. They just don't know anything about it. Some of them, because of their a quote unquote Christian upbringing, think that it's a belief system. It's not. Actually, I hate when people say that. Do you believe in it? No, it's not a belief system. And I know all of you know that. It's a math and a science. It's a study of cycles. It's not a belief system. It works whether you believe in it or not. So with that said, let's look at this chart. It's really, really interesting. So let me get to the chart here. Okay, so we have my charts, and what we're looking at now is the chart. Okay, and I want to point out the first thing that I thought was like unreal. They're astrologers, and the reason why I think the chart could be real is because if you were setting up a state, you would put the sun at the very uppermost part of the chart. Okay, it just makes sense. And the fact that you could have a sun and a moon in the 10th house, because that's where government is, and it's in Capricorn, I mean, that's pretty amazing. So that's what makes me suspect that this might actually be a real chart. The other factors that, although, let me point this out. They may have studied astrology, but they did not use trans-Neptunians, because if they did, I don't know that they would have done that. And what that is that they put Hades as a midpoint for the sun and moon. That means their connections are Hades. Well, it could be indigenous people. It could be Mexican people. It's Hades. It's the past. It's humiliating. It's dirt. I just don't know that that would be a really great place for it. But then again, I don't know that anyone studied the trans-Neptunians before the 1900s. So that kind of answers that question. But look at that 12 degrees of Capricorn rather. And I want you to look at all of this, okay? The other thing I think is really telling, if you know anything about the history of Texas, is Mercury is, of course, communications, and it's not far from the sun, and it's not far from the midheaven, which fits. It's also in Capricorn. However, here again, didn't study those asteroids. Taureau. That makes it a Taureau sun and particularly a Taureau Mercury. Taureau Mercury is the bully. It's the bully. And it's so close to the sun. Yes. How accurate, okay? Wow. You know, there's a story. I had an opportunity to go spend some time in Texas, and I wouldn't go. And it's because I didn't think I would like it. And I don't like big, and I don't like bold, and I don't like brash. And I remember at that time, my ex-husband saying, boy, it was a really good thing you weren't there. So I'm really a northern girl, and you're quiet, and you're unassuming, and you mind your own darned business. But, that's a whole other ballgame. So I wanted to point that out because I thought that was really, really interesting. And what's more interesting is when you throw that in, because that means it's used as a vehicle. It is used, it's like an excessive vehicle. It's like they're excessive about the bullying. And I kind of feel that way. I truly do. It's not a place that I always thought that I would feel comfortable, which is interesting because I'm a traveler and I've never been there. It's one of the states I haven't been to. And I think it's because I'm a little bit put off and I'm not quite sure what I'll expect from the people. Okay, so I thought that was really interesting when I saw that because that blew my mind on a personal level. Now, some of the things that I was looking for our what's going on right now is we want to bear in mind the 6 degrees of Aries, okay? It's really important, actually, okay? The other factors right now that'll play in is the Black Moon Lilith, and I'm going to be doing lectures on the Black Moon, and I know that even if you're in astrology, you might not work with the Black Moon, but I can tell you it is what we're trying to shed karmatically. Okay, we're trying to shed whatever that Black Moon Lilith represents. Okay, in this case, it would be your background. It would be, it's the roots. Okay, so there's a shed there, the need to shed that. Okay, now a lot of things are when you look at this chart, it really is Texas. And this is the reason why I said, this chart might not be too bad. Because when I saw the bullying and then the excessive, because I really feel historically that's another place that I find the history almost embarrassing. Oh, look at that. Embarrassing right there. Okay. Because of the way they went about things with Mexico and the Mexicans, and because some of our history in the United States, which is why we should learn the real history, is a little dark and a little black. And we need to look at it, because if we don't come to terms with who we are on the dark side, then maybe we won't ever be able to evolve beyond a certain level. That would always hold us back. That's why I'm against people who don't want to teach real history, the red states that don't want to teach slavery. Yeah, you do. You do, you do, you do. Okay? It's just really important to do that. You should do it, because I will tell you that as an adult, when I find things out, because I study history now, I'm very into history. It makes me very upset that we were not taught that in school. Very upset. There are things that we now know that we weren't taught, and I think we should be teaching children. And the history of Texas has a lot that would fall into that really needs to be shed, and the only way to shed it is to acknowledge it. But I also like this Uranus coming in from the 12th, which is like an unpredictability that cannot be seen. It's also really close to a Mars. So it's like unpredictable actions also that happen behind the scenes. So I want to make a note of those things, okay? And I want to make a note of them because of, first of all, where Chiron is right now and what Chiron represents. So let me get out of this, okay? I'm going to jump around a lot. I apologize. Really take this in, though. I went through some of the things I'm going to be talking about, and I'm going to jump around. I also want to look at a couple of asteroids. I want to look at this 26 degree 31 Atlantis, because they're having a lot of water issues. I want to look at Neptune for their water issues. We're going to look at Hades, because that's deterioration, and that you're going to find plays a huge role. Also, corruption is going to play a huge role in what's going on. And I wanted to look at Orpheus, because a lot of people are dying, and so Orpheus is up here. So we've got a 22 degree 10-minute Scorpion Orpheus, and we have a 26 degree 31 minutes of Atlantis, okay? And those points are kind of important too. So I will just try to gather them. I'm going to come back and forth as much as I can, because I don't want you to have to think too much. That's not the purpose of these. The purpose is for me to teach you. The first thing I want to do is I want to look at what that chart looks like today. We've evolved. Texas has evolved, okay? Now you still have a sun and moon, okay, way at the top of the chart, though now the moon is before the sun at 20 degrees of Gemini, and the sun is at Aries point, 0 degrees of Cancer, all right? Now let's talk about this Gemini 20 degree moon for a minute, okay? Did we not just talk about a Pisces Neptune? Not in this chart, but for today. So let's do that. Let's do that. Let's look at where the planets are today, because I think that'll also be really a big factor. Today, we have a 19 degrees Pisces, almost 20 degrees Pisces, which, by the way, directly squares the present progressed moon, which is the people. That means that water has affected the populace. And here's the, and then we'll talk about the ice. So we know where the water comes in. Here is where Uranus is now. It's at 7 degrees of Taurus. Remember, we talked about a 6 degree of Aries, didn't we? And you say to yourself, but they're in two different signs, only 30 degrees apart. Yeah, they're in an inconjunct, because they're so close in degree. You can use that. There's their icing. Okay? Because that's Uranus. That's Uranus. Now, we're going to look at something else with Uranus. Okay? So just right now, looking at that Uranus, which is in opposition to Apollon, so there's a lot. It's running in opposition to Poseidon, okay, which, by the way, is water. Okay, am I keeping it? Is everybody keeping up with me? So awesome, so awesome. And that sun, this sun that I took from is of course today. So I'm not going to include that's 1 degree of Pisces. Which, let's go back to their sun, because isn't it funny that sun is easy to find because it's the suns are similar. But look at this sun here. Okay, so we already know that this point is squaring the present Neptune. Very important to make note of that. And look at this. Uranus only went 13 degrees. Okay, so 6 degrees, almost 14, okay, degrees. Okay, so 6.5 to 14. What's in the middle? 10. It's amazing. It's amazing. So that ascendant, once again, that really gives validity to that chart. Because that Uranus right now is straddling that ascendant. It's awesome. So awesome to see that. So I just love throwing that stuff in. So that's at 10 degrees. At 9 degrees, we got Pallas. We got a lot of strategy and planning, people, but we also know that that's an enabler. It's also squaring the sun and moon in that original chart in Capricorn. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. All right, so this is the progress chart. This is the progress chart. But look at where Chiron is in the progress, is on the Aries point. Look where the sun is. We're special. Alternative programs are going to be the only thing that saves them. That's the other thing, okay? I thought that was very compelling, okay? The other factors, because again, you got to know where Pisces is. And then all that Pisces just ran through all of their progressed, okay? Oh, there's the Icarus. I wanted to talk about Icarus, okay? But we got to go back to the first chart, okay? So in the first chart, we have Icarus right here at 25. Well, what's at 25 degrees of Capricorn? Right here, right now. Pluto. Okay? So Pluto is being aspected by their Icarus. They're taking chances. They're taking risks. But I'll be honest with you, I think they're flying too high. Because one of the things I wanted to look at was, look at this 13 degrees of Taurus down here. South node. This is still yet to be hit. See that south and north node? 7th to the 1st. That's going to be hit. That's going to be hit by Uranus. It's going to be squared by Saturn. And that's coming up. Okay? Because let's look where Saturn is and where Uranus is. We already know that Uranus is at 7 degrees already, right? So let's look at where it is now. So Uranus is there. Saturn is at 7 degrees Aquarius. We're in a complete square right now. Isn't that amazing? A complete square. When did all this happen? When that square came to their Uranus, right? By way of trine, or not trine, inconjunct. Okay, so by way of inconjunct. Oh, I'm going to get to the trine in a minute. Okay, that's coming. I was told a story, and I'm going to share this with you. We're not going to look at the charts for it because that really gets complicated, but I can tell you that it's the beginning of the Pluto sojourn over a lot of the stuff in the original chart. Okay, so remember, we go to the original chart. And in 2011, when Pluto was beginning its journey, and Pluto, especially when Pluto hit the 6 degree mark, right around that, here we go again, this chart's actually pretty good. So in here, between that it could even be the 3 degrees of Mercury might be when it really hit, and then you see it sink in. But in 2011, they were warned that their system was not good enough and that they needed to upgrade their system. But for reasons of money, I'm pretty sure that's what it was, or greed, or corruption, all the above fit, particularly when you're talking about the 10th house being so Capricorn. Sometimes that is a good placement for corruption as well. I mean, Capricorn being up there, it just is an opportunity. So in any event, they did not fix what needed to be fixed. They knew that this could happen. They were told in 2011, they did nothing. Okay. They don't want big government coming in there and telling them what to do. They self-regulate. So let's look at something else here because I think this is really important. Okay, so we have a 12 degrees Hades. All right. Look what we have at 12 degrees in opposition to Hades. Right now, this moment. Kronos. Look what's not far away at 9 degrees. Hades. Okay? But that 9 degrees, okay? That 9 degrees, that's squaring the ascendant of that chart. So if that chart was any good, we're going to be finding out a lot of crap about their authority people. Now, what's really interesting is that I did put this, and I want to show this so that I can show it in astrology. It wasn't this chart. It was the evolved chart. Here's where, okay, Cupido has an attack on it, okay? The vehicle is an attack. It's also the way in which they do things, okay? So that's an attack. Now, when I do, and I think it's this one. Okay, you can tell this is not my first time. I wanted to redo this video. Okay, to clean it up. When I look at, that's something else we're going to be looking at, but the attacks, hold on a minute, I'm going to have to go to a wheel so I can find them, is right here at 14 degrees of Cap. Okay, so this is where the progressed one has gotten to, which is trine propaganda or Poseidon, also trine water, okay, because Poseidon is water, all right? They already, okay, so I'm getting so ahead of myself. Solving problems is just past the Aries point, okay? So they will be able to solve, like I say, they will, but I think a lot is going to come out about people are going to attack. It's already started. The governor for lying. I can't believe that he would lie. This day and age, what are you thinking? It's like the insurrectionists coming into the White House thinking, what, there's no cameras? Really, people? We're in a new age. And if you think you're going to be able to hide what you've been doing, you're so wrong. It's a new age. The age of being able to hide is over. This is coming out of the Piscean age, the last 200 in what we call the material phase. You could hide money before, you can't do it now. You can pocket that money and line it. But I tell you straight up that like now even, with that Kronos, or am I again, here we are, with this 11 degree, Kronos is still 11 degrees, my goodness. So we've got Kronos like just being nailed between the progressed Kronos and the present 9-day 9. Do you see that? 9. It's a trine. Or no, I'm sorry, it's a sextile. But that's not what I'm looking at. What I'm looking at is just a conversation. You don't want anything with Hades. You don't want anything that will bring Kronos down. And yet we're seeing lots that will bring Kronos down, because even that 14 degree Hopi is attacking that 12 degree, squaring that 12 degree Kronos. Okay? It's just awesome. I look for numbers when I'm reading like this because there is a conversation there. And it is mind-blowing, okay? And like I said, I think it's going to go on for a while because you've got this 13-degree nodes coming into being with what's going on with Uranus. And you know how Uranus is affecting them because it falls so close to their ascendant on both sides now because of the present progressed one. And then you of course Twitter's going to attack Ted Cruz for trying to take off. What did he think was going to happen? But what's so funny is the astrology tells you. So I should have read the chart first and said, well, they're going to screw up. They're probably going to lie. I did not look for the lie asteroids in here. I should have. I did not bother. I was so busy working on Hades and Kronos that I kind of let that go. What I do want to do is I do want to talk about a couple of asteroids here. And I want to spend a few minutes on them. First of all, if we go to this chart and we look at the 12-degree 48 Panacea, and this is the 1845 chart. Well, Panacea, oh, look at this too. The problems are that you have to destroy something in order to fix it. Well, I think that's going to come true in their case, okay? I really do. And it's going to come through partnerships, probably with the government. Okay, because they don't want the government in their stuff. Okay, go back to the Chiron squaring the sun. That's a Chiron sun. Okay, they don't want that, but that's probably how it's going to happen anyway. Okay, Lilith is down there, not their Lilith, the Lilith is down there, but the white moon is with the Sirius. It is going to be about taking care of the people. And in order to take care of the people, they are going to have to accept this partnership with the government. So we do want to look at that. We also, because let's look at that. One of the things we can do here, you have to remember the numbers because we lose a lot of the asteroids, okay? But we're going to bi-wheel. And since I really do kind of think this chart fits, we're going to do the two charts together, okay? Look at Hades. Didn't move very far because he doesn't. He's retrograde now. So some of what's been going on maybe has been more hidden, okay? Look at where Neptune is, okay? Look at where Venus and Neptune are. And really, you know, this is really critical to what's going on today because it's going to have a huge impact on their economy, okay, as a group, and that's 11th is the group. What's interesting is the chart's kind of flipped so that we see the outer chart down here, the inner chart up here with regards to what's going on. But a couple things I want to point out is that there's a lot of things that are always ongoing for Texas, and this could be related to Zeus, which is new projects, planting seeds. The Jupiter is a good in 0 degrees of Taurus in one chart and 2 degrees of Jupiter in the other. But let me be honest with you, the 2-degree Jupiter right now is being aspected by the current Adamitas. So they're very limited on their good fortune right now. And they're very limited on how much they can expand right now. And a lot of that would be social distancing, but a lot of that also has to do with where they are historically. And remember that we did see that South Node stuff. When I look at the connections here, the things that stand out the most, as I pointed out before, were this right here, okay? Pluto in Aries is a real biggie because it means that as the Pluto, and Pluto is still at 25 degrees, and their progressed is only 25 degrees, and Pluto being that thing that pulls the rug out from under you. And remember that in 2011 is when it came into hitting them, okay? So that's when in 2011 they were notified, you know, there's their Mercury, but they didn't do what they were supposed to do. Well, that's when Pluto comes into play. And Pluto is with Vulcan right now, which means that there's a lot of pressure to transform. A lot of pressure to transform. I think that's really, really, really important. The all of the Poseidon, the water stuff, is about them letting go of something. Okay, so it is about transformation that I think ultimately is better, even though right now it's very restrictive or restricted. How it's really affecting homeowners and people who own buildings right now, it's awful. It's South Node on the Cupido, very strong in this chart, okay? Real tough. Mars opposing Saturn is never good. That's also talking about heartbreaks, and that is going on. Not opposing Saturn, I'm sorry. That's this is Mars to Chiron, which is what I'm referring to in this chart. What I want to say is that there's sextiles from Mars to Saturn right now, which ultimately could be some benefit to the charts. But you see here that there's by nature a Mercury squaring Mars, and that is never good, okay, because that's not really trustworthy, okay, sometimes when you see that. It's just like the actions and the speak are not the same. There's a difference. So I got the Plutos. I showed you the Volcanus there. Again, just another reminder that they're still kind of going through things because that 25 is there. The South Node still has to be gone through. The present Adamitos is affecting their present Jupiter, but it's also affecting their natal Zeus and their natal Astrea. Really, they are going to have their hands tied so badly coming out of this, because it's just, that's how devastating this has been. Okay, so we looked, and I remember I mentioned this, we looked for water disasters, and we had something at 22 Aquarius, and we had something at 26 of I'm sorry, Scorpio. We had something at 22 Scorpio, and then we had something at 26 Libra. Okay, now you don't see anything in these charts because, again, I don't have the asteroids up. But just really briefly, if you were to go to what opposes that 26 degrees of Libra, that Atlantis is, again, Volcanus and Pluto. So that fits. It is water disasters. The Poseidon at 19 is, again, at 19 degrees is where we have almost 20 degrees. That's where we have Neptune. So the Poseidon is affected. Neptune and Poseidon are both representative of water. So you would really look to see what are these things affecting. Well, Adamitos. Here, these people are just blocked in by water. Well, isn't it funny, because Texas as a state is blocked in by water, but it's really blocked. It's really limited by water right now, which is really interesting, because that again plays in with the water factor. So I wanted to look at that, and just that was their natal. Okay, so I was just showing the natal, which is totally affecting that first house down there. Now, what I want to do is I want to go to this chart, and we're going to look at, just to kind of show something here, that Atlantis doesn't go very far, okay? So we had that Atlantis, and it did actually move. Let's see, it's at 8. Well, it kind of went backwards, so I think it might have been retrograde. But there it is at 1845, okay? Now, 1845 puts it still in range of, here we go, Pluto. By the way, this is a definite aspect, again, to the present day. And again, looking at the present day, there's Neptune. So Neptune has a real effect on this, okay? A real effect. Look at that. You can tell I'm talking about it. There's Urania also at 19 Sag. But that's today. That's what's going on today. But it's really interesting to look at, you could see the authorities being attacked. You could see that in these charts. You can see the devastation from the water, because 26 to 18, it's two sides. It's just so interesting. You can look at 18. Let's go look at 18 in the present chart. Okay, so this is the upgrade. So if we're looking at 18 degrees of, yeah, that is the new one. Okay, and if we were to look at 18 degrees, oh, that's February. I don't want that. I want, oh yeah, that's the right one. Okay. No, that's where I looked at Pluto. We don't need that. Sorry about jumping around so much. Isn't that crazy? A couple things that I want to point out. This is the present, okay, but it's an aged chart. So it's still Texas's chart. It's aged. And it's the one where we saw the square and where this now squares completely to Neptune, the present. And the 18 here is completely working. I want to make sure I get all this, because we're working against Cancer at the same time. That's where it is. There is a Vesta on that Atlantis, and I think that's the social distancing factor, okay, that there is, maybe a concern about social distancing and how that's going to affect, or how the disease is going to be affected. And I think that's pretty appropriate. And then, like I say, this is the attacks right here, because they're screwing up. They deserve to be attacked. I truly believe that. I mean, I know it's awful, but I truly believe that. Again, Adamitos in this chart at 20 degrees of, so it hasn't gone far. They don't go very far when you're looking at secondary progressed. So Astrea things have not been resolved. The fact that things haven't been resolved, there's a lot of pressure on it right now, and it should have been done in 2011. That's also in there. So I definitely want you to see that. Okay? A couple of other things. There's so much in here that we could do. One of the things I pointed out, when you're looking at a dial, and I'm going to look at Orpheus right now, okay? And this is something I pointed out in the one that you're probably not getting. Look where Saturn is, okay? And it's not far from this lineup up here, which includes Uranus, Apollon, sudden death to a lot of people through something that I believe, which Hades, through deterioration. Look at this. This is another real defining moment here. There's going to be transformations because of a water disaster. Water disaster. Damage from water. Now, please note, there's also a Volcanus midheaven on here. There's a lot of pressure about the future. We have to transform. We have to figure this out. Well, they are hearing that now. But let's look at some other things up there. There's attack again. So, right near the Hades. So there's a lot of attack. But right outside of that is this Saturn, and Orpheus is with Saturn. So the limitation is death. The limitation is, in other words, is Saturn, the separation. We're separated. We're out here. People are dying. Can't get help. That's Saturn to Orpheus. A lot of restrictions causing death. So just really sad with regards to the death, the amount of death, okay? And how death plays in at this early mutable point, okay? So death is actually, I'll give you it on the wheel, I thought it was over here, but there it is, 0 degrees of Pisces. Okay, so let me show you something here. 0 degrees of Pisces, 0 degrees of Sun. It's because of our drives, a lot of death has occurred. Okay? Also because you think you're different. This is like such a storyline. Okay? And it's being watched at by the world. You gotta love this. And it won't be over easily. Astrea. That's astrology. That's in there. This is one of those times when my teacher would say, if it's not in astrology, I'm quitting. Well, no worries. It's in there. Okay? I can tell you that what's been done, the damage that's been done has caused an incredible amount of pain to people. Okay? It really has. And I believe that that is going to take some time and I think there's going to be a lot of changes that are going to begin to happen to Texas. Okay? And maybe it's time that Texas, accounted for that bullying nature, that brazen, pompous, bigger than life concept. Maybe it's time they let go of that a little bit. Maybe it's time that they honored the fact that they came into this United States as a slave state. So they need to start teaching that. And they also need to understand more about their brown and black cultures as a result. Okay? And not be a bully. Okay? And not be so racist. So they have a little ways to go in some of that, because this here tells me too that they are racist. The Hopi. Okay, it's an attack, but it's also racism, prejudice type of a thing. And I really feel like that has gotten truly out of hand down there, and that will be looked at. The other thing that I think will be looked at, and I want you to look at this now because this is so, so important, is this concept of look where Kronos is, 9 degrees of Pisces, okay? And the evolved placement for it is 11 degrees, okay? But look what we have. So that's their Kronos. Their Hades, we already know, we've talked about, that's playing in huge to what's going on. But I think that some of their people are going to be in big trouble. And I mean people, I mean Ted Cruz, Greg Abbott, Cornyn, because I believe that some stuff is going to come out because, see this at 11, okay? So you got the 9, you got the 11, you got the 12, you got the 13. Just listen up for numbers here, people, because that's the important part. And then let's look where everything is right now. Look at this. Hades, 9. Trining perfectly. And by the way, trines just make things easy. Kronos. They've been really getting away with it, haven't they? And then you have Kronos at 12 degrees of Cancer in opposition to that Hades and running in alignment in a trine with its own Kronos. And Hades Kronos is not good. And they've got Hades Kronos from the opposition as well. So there's a lot of Hades Kronos down there in Texas. And I kind of tend to believe that that could be corruption. And that maybe they need to look at their officials. Because somebody pocketed money. Somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do. And I think we need to look to the administrations for that. Okay? And then you look at the Shiwas. Those are destruction asteroids. And like I said, we could do this for hours. We could do this for hours. But look what's at 12 Scorpio with Panacea. So it's been the process of Texas to destroy in order to rebuild. They may have to do it again. By the way, Poseidon's not far from there. We'd know everything. Also, their Saturn is just past the Aries point at 1630, and we know that the present Saturn is down now at the mutable. In other words, it continued. Let me go back and I'll show you. So see how the Saturn has now moved, okay? I got to find it. I know where it is on the dial, but I got to find it. It's brown. Jeez. And it's hard because you can't go by anything to know. There it is. 0 degrees of Pisces, I was right. It's at the very beginning. But again, I already talked about it. The 0 degrees, the 0 degrees, the 0 degrees. Very telling. Okay? An aspect of 2 degrees, it brings in the 4 degrees. And that's how astrology works. One thing brings in another, it brings in another. And they're kind of used to going their own way. I just don't think that's going to work for them so much coming up. So it'd be really interesting. Again, especially with Adamitos sitting on both their Jupiter and Zeus right now. I think that's Adamitos' blockages, condensing, its delays and obstacles, and that's all hanging out there at that early mutable, which means it's also squaring death, which is sad, okay, at 0 degrees. And so is Saturn at 0 degrees. So they're both at 0 degrees. I think that's really important to point out because Orpheus is seen. Of course, it could also be there's a limit on music. That would be funny. But I think it's really referring to death. And could also be death of older people. And that might be majority of what is dying. So it's very sad. I know that's what's dying the majority of in the disease. So we do kind of want to look at that. This is just interesting stuff. This is what I love to do. So I came in here looking for death and got my answer. I came in here looking for corruption in the government. I got my answer. I came in here looking for ICE issues. I got my answer. And I also was able to verify that I think this is a pretty good chart. So let me come back. So I hope that was of interest to you. I was really excited when I read this. You're not getting as much of my excitement because this is my second time through, but I really wanted to go through this because this is how astrologers can really work and begin to really understand and get their research in. If that stuff wasn't in the chart, I mean, that chart of Texas had to hold all that and more. And I'm sure that we could sit and go through this chart and pick out even more things. But I think for what we needed to look at today and for the point that I needed to make, we were able to do it. So I thank you once again for allowing me into your life. I hope that it was informative as much as exciting because it was for me. And that maybe even you learned something. But I'm going to leave you as I always do, thanking you for being a part of it, and as always, wishing you only happy readings.